So it is a pleasure to be able to introduce our Darshanit for this morning. Patty Dickman is, among many things, clapping, getting applause already. Patty Dickman is, among many things, the aunt of our bar mitzvah of Sammy. I've known Patty and been able to kind of be with her in a number of different kinds of environments, number of different settings, be it life cycle events or in what seems to be kind of like endless amounts of committee meetings and other things, or just even passing in the shul as her kids were at the day school here and growing up. And I've always found Patty to be just a very vibrant presence, very straightforward and very insightful, and it's a pleasure to be able to share the beam with you this morning.
Sitting with my dad. His cancer was growing and his health was rapidly deteriorating. But even in that state, he was thinking ahead to today and anxious to start working on his drosh. You see, in a perfect world, my dad would be standing here speaking to all of you today. As many of you may or may not know, my father was a darshan at all three of my children's bar bat mitzvah. It was a tradition he loved and one that he took pride in, starting the studying and writing of his drosh way, way in advance, a little different than me. So, when my dad asked Carol to bring over the parsha so he could get started, I suggested to him that we could work on it together. I encouraged him not to worry about it and promised him that if he did not feel up to it, I would do it for him. So here I stand, proudly carrying on this very meaningful tradition for my dad and for Sammy. Today's Torah portion, Parshat Naso, is the longest portion in the Torah, of course. The word Naso means translates to lift up or to count. As I studied the portion and read a multitude of interpretations and reflections, I found that so many of the lessons, values, and characteristics contained within continue to be relevant and integral to our society today. I discovered a common thread through all the verses about the importance of holiness and wholeness. It begins with the counting of the male Levites and the assignments and responsibilities of each for the dissembling, guarding, transporting, and reassembling of the tabernacle, the Mishkan. This exemplifies the importance of each individual being counted. Everybody has something to contribute, but it is only through accepting personal responsibility to yourself, and responsibility to our world and your community that your contribution counts. Each individual has to do his or her part. Moses proceeds to remind the Israelites to remove any person who is ritually unclean and has wronged their fellow man from the camp. Clear directions are given for the path to restitution because making amends does not require giving 100% of yourself, but 120%. And so we learn more about the value of truth, the cost for dishonesty, and the price to rebuild that trust. That theme continues into the next verse that addresses suspicion and jealousy by instructing the Israelites of the steps you need to take if you suspected your wife of being unfaithful. Next is the sanctity of the vow, specifically the vows by the Nazarites to honor Hashem. But today, what are the vows or promises we make to show honor, respect, and love? There are the big vows, like those we make at our wedding, and the smaller but no less important promises, like the one I made to my dad that brings me to this spot today. One of the most important verses in this parsha gives us the priestly benediction, still used in every synagogue today, including ours, when the rabbis and cantors bless Sammy, and in many Jewish homes on Shabbat when parents bless their children. In one of the many, and I mean many, Devar Torahs I read in preparation for today, I came across this blog that had an interpretation that spoke to me. This blogger ventured to explain how the priestly benediction is not just one blessing, but three separate but equally important blessings. The first blessing, may the Lord bless you and keep you, speaks to the blessing in material wealth and success and protection from loss. The second blessing, may the Lord cause his spirit to shine upon you and be gracious unto you, refers to the blessing of spirituality, love, and the understanding of your path in life. The third blessing, may the Lord bestow his favor upon you and grant you peace, is a hope that you will live a full life, and most importantly, a life of peace. When you break down the blessing into three succinct blessings and then incorporate them back together, you can fully see the holiness of each of them and the wholeness of them all. In the final verse of this week's parashat, the Torah lists the offerings that each of the 12 tribal leaders brings to the dedication of the Mishkan. Each offering is just one piece of the puzzle needed, not only in making the Mishkan holy, but to make it whole. Our lives, like the dedication of the Mishkan, or the 3 messages in the priestly benediction, have many pieces that make us whole. So this led me to think about my life, and what are the pieces of my puzzle that give me that sense of holiness and wholeness. There is, of course, the people in our lives, our family and friends. Like many of you, I feel most whole when I have my family by my side. I was thinking about an evening on our recent trip to Scotland. It was the first night at a beautiful yet secluded resort that sort of reminded us of the movie The Shining. We went to the bar downstairs for dinner, and Robert and I both proceeded to consume a little too much alcohol. Robert, being exactly who he is, started joking with the waitress and making us all laugh. And in that moment, with Robert having 2 straws coming out of his nostrils, me laughing so hard that I was snorting, shaking, and crying all at once, Matthew and Jordan laughing hysterically, and Jessica laughing while documenting it all on her iPhone, of course. In that moment, I felt completely whole. The blessings of love and pure joy of sharing that laughter made this ridiculous moment holy. When I met with Rabbi Bernhard to go over the Torah portion and my idea of what makes you whole, we talked about why it was important to me to do this today. I explained to him that although my dad is not physically here, he is always in the back of my mind, pushing me and encouraging me to do the right thing. Since his passing, I try to do things and handle myself in a manner that he would like me to. And through that, I also feel a sense of wholeness. Through our conversation, I realized it is not just our family and friends that are with us today that complete our lives. It is also the people who are no longer here, but whose voices are still in our head. But it is not just the people in our lives that make us whole. There are also places where we feel whole. I spent 12 summers of my life at Camp Hess Kramer in Malibu. It was a place where I always felt most connected to my spiritual side, which says a lot because I don't really think of myself as spiritual. I hadn't spent Shabbat in camp in years, and last summer, when Jessica was at camp and I needed it the most, Robert and I went up there for Shabbat. We sat in the beautiful outdoor chapel while the wind blew through the trees and the campers swayed arm in arm to the songs of the prayer, and I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and felt at peace and whole. The list of things that make me feel whole goes on and on. There's a feeling of wholeness when I'm volunteering, when I'm at a hockey game and the Kings are winning, and Matthew's smile is one of pure joy. When Jessica so proudly explained to me how exactly she had figured out how to manipulate me, and I realized it was a way even I had never come up with. When I'm driving and a song I love comes on and I know every word and sing like a star, or at least that's what it sounds like to me. Or when Robert goes on a business trip and I wake up to find he's left beautiful notes for me and the kids. Or the feeling right now, sharing this snippet of time with all of you. The more I think about the people, things, and places that are the pieces in the puzzle of my life, I realize it's in those small moments that I really feel the holiness of the blessings in my life, and I truly feel whole. I encourage each of you to take a few quiet moments and reflect on your life and the blessings that make it holy and whole. Think about lifting up and counting, rising to the occasion, paying attention to the little things, and counting what is most important in your life. I wish you all a week of shalom, wholeness, holiness, and peace. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.